Welcome to Season 4 of Might in Motion, the podcast that champions motivation, momentum, mindfulness, and might. I'm Marianna, Kinnee, your host, bringing you conversations with inspiring leaders and innovators who challenge the status quo and push boundaries in their careers and lives. Whether you're here to grow, lead, or ignite your own journey, we're here to keep you moving forward. Let's dive in. Today, I welcome Ken Rusk, president of Rusk Industries. He is a best-selling author, an entrepreneur, and motivational speaker who defied the odds by achieving a Wall Street Journal bestseller status with his book, Blue Collar Cash. Even during the pandemic's challenges, he hosts the podcast Comfort, Peace, and Freedom, where he impacts wisdom on personal and professional fulfillment. Ken's impactful course, The Path to a Successful Life, empowers individuals to overcome obstacles and create their own success stories. With a unique journey that boasts multiple appearances on Fox and Friends, Tucker Carlson Tonight, and American's Newsroom, Ken's insights have been featured in Forbes, USA Today, Epoch Times, Fox Business, and New York Post. Notably, Ken's achievements are rooted in his unconventional path as he takes pride in his lack of higher education. His entrepreneurial flair shines as the founder of Rusk Industries, a growing portfolio of construction companies with revenue above 9 figures. Collaborating with notable figures like Tony and Jarek Robbins and Tucker Carlson, Ken is actively shaping the future American leaders. Committed to giving back, he supports organizations like Make-A-Wish, Tunnel to Towers, and Ronald McDonald House. He also teaches at Boys and Girls Clubs and Junior Achievement. Ken, welcome to Might in Motion.
Thanks, Marianna. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
You know, I am been really looking forward to this conversation with you. And just a moment ago, we were in the green room. We were talking about getting our hands dirty. Like there's just something magical about doing some work in the yard and helping others by actually, doing the hard work. You actually started your career digging ditches and you turned that into a successful entrepreneurial journey. What was that turning point when you realized that taking that manual labor, you could actually become more, and it could be more than just a job for somebody?
Well, it actually really started when I was very young because I had 4 brothers and we lived in a very small house in Amherst, Ohio with my mom and dad. And, they did as good as they could back in the day, right? I mean, they put a roof over our house. They kept us clothed. I mean, we wore hand-me-downs, but that was normal back then. And, we ate, we had plenty of food to eat and that kind of thing. When it came to, superfluous things, there are things beyond that. I remember my father saying, listen, if you want more than I can provide for you currently, then let's find a way for you to go make that happen. So really early on, I learned that there was magic in trading labor for things, trading hours for things. And I just couldn't believe that I could go, work in somebody's yard for a day and come home with $20 and do that 2 days in a row and go buy my new baseball bat. I just couldn't believe that was possible. And, the things got bigger, the hours got longer, the dollars got bigger, of course, but it was really cool to kind of see that I was literally in control of the acquisition of things I wanted into my life. Right. And, one person turned to two persons turned to 3. I'll never forget. I was landscaping someone's house. I was 17 years old and I had another job going with 2 other guys, and I was charging $5 an hour I was paying them $5 an hour each, which they were so happy with. I was charging the customer $10 an hour and I wasn't even there, but yet I was responsible and I directed the job and I took all the risk. So I just thought that was insanely powerful that you could create a collective of people like that and create revenue. And I just kept going. I mean, we started my company in '86 and here it is, 2025. I think we had 6 people when we started, and we're at nearly 200 today. So it's been a hell of a ride.
That's amazing. That you mentioned a word, risk. And so many times people are afraid to step out and take that risk of now you're responsible for others, that they're not your kids, right? But now you're responsible for their success. And at an early age, that must have had a huge impact on you.
I saw like you see some of those motivational poems that are hanging on people's walls once in a while. I saw one that had to do with risk. And at the end of it, it said something like, he or she who risks nothing, does nothing, is nothing, and lives nothing. I mean, it was just neat the way that they wrote it. And if you just Google the Risk poem, there's 10 different versions out there, but they're all pretty good. And it's true, because, you know, I tend to be a little bit of a risk junkie, I guess. Most of the time that works out okay. When you are a risk junkie, you will lose. There's no doubt. And as long as you win more than you lose and keep getting up off the floor, you know, it becomes a really good thing. So I wouldn't change it for the world. I wouldn't want to go out and play too conservative. Certainly that wouldn't have helped me. But yeah, there is a certain element, there's a certain romance, a certain mystery to risk, and it's kind of a cool thing.
Yeah, it's the more wins than losses, that's the most important. That's like any sports team, right? And if you can
Mhm.
quantify and track your days that you win versus lose, they add up. I think that's a great mindset to have.
Yeah,
Now,
there's no question. I now my goal is to expand, you know, that element of control, that element of risk, that element of vision into the people that surround me here at the office, because it's one thing to be an entrepreneur, Marianna, and take the risk. And, I have to buy the 40 dump trucks, and I have to do the workers' comp, and I have to do all that kind of stuff, the insurance and everything, and hire all the people, whatever. But there is such a thing that I really like. It's the concept of being an entrepreneur. And so I love surrounding myself with people that, they do want to run the division like they would run it. They do want it to be their own. They own it mentally and physically. They want to create things with and for the company. They want to share in the result of that creation, but maybe they just don't have that risk tolerance yet to go out and just do all that on their own. And so I've surrounded myself with, I don't know, 15 or 20 of these people. And the amazing thing is they'll help you take your company way further than you can take it yourself. That's for sure.
Yeah, that kind of goes into something that you say, talent rules culture. And it sounds like you're fostering that in real time with bringing in these entrepreneurs, but also like, in the trades and in the manual labor field as well.
Well, yeah, one of the things about, there's a stigma attached to blue collar work, which is just a lie. It's just crazy. But one of the things that I think is unknown, they, in the research for the book that I wrote called Blue Collar Cash, I remember hearing this stat that, 36% of white collar workers are happy in their career, but 65% of blue collar workers are happy in their career. And I wondered why that was. So I did a lot of research, and it really comes down to control, Marianna. I mean, if you think about it, when you're out there working, doing your thing, you control your input, you control your output, the quality of that output, you control your pace, your day, your time, your schedule, and usually you control your financial gain as a result of all that. So I think that's the unsung hero part of working for yourself or being out in some type of a trade. And I don't think you get that on the 15th floor of a, in a cubicle in some office building selling something that you don't even know how you fit in to the rest of the group. So I think there's most people, when they interview blue collar entrepreneurs, they come away going, wow, why didn't I know that? And it's just because nobody ever asks us.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to focus on the highly educated and the multi-level, supervisor, regional vice president type, whatever. And that's fine, because I guess there's security in that for some people, but yeah, nobody asks us how that stuff works. And when they do, they're pleasantly surprised.
When I was in college, I had the opportunity to do a summer internship with Saya Motor Freight and ride around with day freight drivers out in Oklahoma. And it was so eye-opening to me what these men went through every day, but also like why they chose that career path. And it was some of them had, their master's degrees, they had businesses before, all this stuff, but then they just wanted this freedom of managing their time, managing how well they perform, being able to problem solve on their own when they're out there on the road, right? And it inspired me, like just at an early age, on how much value there is in that part of our workforce and our culture as a country, really.
Well, if you go into the book, you'll see something called comfort, peace, and freedom, which are three words that when I started writing the book, I just couldn't run away from. It was almost like I just kept seeing them everywhere. And it was funny because even the people that knew me were like, there you go again. There's that word again. And, they almost act like a triangle. In fact, I write that in the book about how they're interdependent on each other for their effectiveness. But yeah, freedom is certainly one of them. I mean, if you think about living the way you want to live, we all get like 90 revolutions on this planet if we're lucky, right? So if you think about living exactly how you want to live, the context of comfort, peace, and freedom should be your three main goals, no matter
Hmm.
what level of riches you try to aspire to. Some people are going to chase mega yachts and McMansions and 15 cars. Other people are going to say, give me a small country house out in a field somewhere, and let me have a fishing boat and a couple of kids and my dog, and that's it. I'm good. That's the way I want to live. And you have to respect both of those choices, because if either one of them gets there, they've won. Because most people can't say that they could ever get close to that level of comfort, peace, and freedom. So I try to align the people here at the office with what is it that you want your life to look like. Let's figure that out in unbelievably crisp, clear, concise detail, and then deconstruct it and then go get it one piece at a time. Because if they're winning for themselves with and through my company, then the company wins every time.
He's, we mentioned that earlier in the green room too, that I have two young girls, and I'm encouraging them to do stuff in the yard and all this other stuff. What do you think that parents and even maybe young adults that are, deciding, do I go to college? Do I go to a trade path? How do you maybe mentor them, or advice you would give on maybe choosing what the right, I don't know if there ever is one right path, but the path to take?
Well, okay, so this gets a little controversial. So on one side of the coin, I tell them this: I'm not so concerned what they do for a living as I am what they do with what they do for a living.
Mm,
Okay. And a lot of people look at me sideways when I say that, until they understand that you don't live to work. You work so that you can live. Well, I'd really like to know what the live part looks like. Okay. You got 3/8 in your day: 8 hours sleeping, 8 hours working, 8 hours doing something else. I want to know what the 8 hours of something else is, because that's why you're doing all this. Why are you working to begin with, Marianna? Right.
mm-hmm.
So when I say to somebody, look at, I'm more concerned about the fact that you're achieving the life you want for yourself than exactly how you're doing it, getting there. I mean, ditch digging was number 99 out of a list of 100 things that I wanted to do. Right. But I wanted to be a race car driver. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, but what happened was I could create enough success through that pathway that now I can afford. I have a little garage full of cars, and I race them on the track. So I kind of itch that scratch, or scratch that itch, if you will. So yeah, I really believe that you have to start with a really perfectly clear idea of how you want the result to be first, and then pick one of the many ways that you can to get there.
Yeah, sometimes people think that, having a vision board or whatever is woo woo, but what you're talking about isn't. It's still having that vision. And when you can start seeing it, then you can take plan of action that actually manifests. Manifestation just doesn't happen. You actually have to do things to make it happen.
Yeah, that's why I lose the word. In the most, for the most part, I have taught people to drop the word goal, dream, hope, and wish. And I want them to replace that with the word timed pathway. Because if I say to you, man, I really hope someday that I'm going to go to the gym. Okay, someone's going to go, yeah, well, you don't seem too committed to that, Ken. However, if I say, I have a pathway to the gym that takes me through Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 4 o'clock, where I'm going to meet my friend Bill there, it's a
Mm-hmm.
much more exacting thing. And the reason I say that is because if I took a 1,000-piece puzzle right now and dumped it on your desk in front of you, and I walked away with the box, you would have an enormously hard time creating that puzzle, right? And I
Yeah.
heard the other day that for every piece, if you're building 1,000-piece puzzle, you'll probably look at that box 100,000 times. So if that's true, and you're only making a silly puzzle on your table that you're going to take apart and put in the box and put it away when you're done, why aren't we treating our life the same exact way? Okay. So when I think of a vision board, it's not just a hope or a wish or a dream board. It is a collection of things that I have exact clear pathways towards getting. And then I can learn to anticipate multiple things at the same time. And in my mind, that's the word I'm really after, because if you can learn to anticipate your life like you do a vacation or a holiday or a date or whatever, you can then become an extremely powerful person, because in my opinion, anticipating things manifesting into your life is living. That is what it is after all. So yeah, that's kind of what we preach around here.
Does that, it sounds like that's allowed you to achieve success. Is that always been your definition of success throughout your life, or how has that maybe evolved since you started your career at, 14, 15?
Well, I always loved the chase. I loved chasing things, and then I got them, and I still love them, and then I chased more things. It was just stuff. Now, again, we're not talking about material things. We're talking about, yes, some of them are material, in fact, but the things I choose to bring into my life, I choose so that they can create memories with me and my family and friends. I have a thing that says, he or she who dies with the most memories wins. I think that's absolutely factual. So yeah, in the beginning, it was, I want to set my life up the way I want it. And I have done that. And now I realize that your most precious asset you're ever going to have in your lifetime is time, or time freedom. So setting your life up the way you want it, enjoying the journey along the way, as they say, and recognizing that freedom to be spontaneous, freedom to just do what you want to do, freedom to choose time, freedom to choose who you want to spend your time with. That's the ultimate power that a human has, in my opinion.
It's what I think is really cool that was highlighted in your bio when I introduced you, was that you are taking this precious commodity of time and you also leverage it to give back. That I love that. I love some of the causes that you're part of. I've done things, especially with like Tunnels to Towers. That's been a really big influence in like my personal life as well. And so I'd love to know what's inspired you to give back to others.
Well, early on, I always wanted to be part of charities that were local. And early on, one of the challenges that I had was we were writing checks to the Heart Association and the Red Cross, and those are all great charities. There's no question. There's actually so many heart associations, you don't even know which ones you're giving to, but they're great charities. However, some of them you put the money in and you just don't really know where it's going or what it's doing sometimes. Red Cross you do, but some of these charities are kind of vague in a way. So I wanted to get local charities where I could see where the money was actually going. And that led me to a place of giving called Time, Talent, and Treasure. And you've heard that before, but when you practice it, it's a whole nother thing. You can write checks, and we used to write checks and we would post them up on the wall in the office so people could see, look, we're giving money away, we're being generous. But that didn't have any impact for some reason. And I really didn't feel like I was doing something. So, if for your listeners out there, gather up 6 people, find $90, go to the grocery store, buy the ingredients for spaghetti, meatballs, garlic bread, and a salad. Go to Ronald McDonald House and spend the next 2 hours, the 6 of you, standing around these beautiful kitchens that they have, and you create this amazing meal. And when you're done, you put it in these big foil trays and you cover it up and you put it in the refrigerator, and then you go home. And you have no idea who that meal is for. And what's better is they don't have any idea who made it for them. But you know that you're making it for some parent whose child is across the street suffering from some terrible disease. And all they want in the world after sitting with them for 8 hours is to come home and have a nice quiet meal by themselves and try to decompress as much as you can from that. I know that experience. So it's giving without any expectation that is the coolest thing in the world. And so time, talent, and treasure is how we play all the rules now. We do a thing where we build these peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. We have a company that in town that they deliver these sandwiches to the homeless all through the city on the weekends. And so once a quarter, we'll convert our whole conference room and we'll have 12 of us and we'll make 250 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches in 20 minutes. And that includes a bag of snack, the apple, the napkin, the whole 9 yards. It's hilarious, this process. But at the same time, we know we're doing something really amazing. And those sandwiches get boxed up and they're put in the van and we never know who receives them. But that doesn't matter. I mean,
Right.
it's why you're doing it to begin with.
It's a great way for everybody to come together with fellowship. Like time, talent, and treasure is used in my church all the time, right? Like it's and there's that fellowship aspect of bringing people together to do something for others. Once again, you may not even see who the other is, but it's tangible. You've got this common vision, common mission that's bigger than one individual.
Well, yeah, exactly. And the other thing is, there's a really good chance that those 12 people would never have done this on their own. I mean, there's almost 100% chance. They might have created something. I mean, who knows? But when you go at scale like that, it's really powerful. And they get to feel like, wow, not only am I a good person, meaning the person that themselves doing it, but so are their coworkers. So is the culture of the company, the ownership of the company that supports that. And it just builds like just one more layer of loyalty and long-term, employee that you don't necessarily do it for that reason, but that sure is a great side benefit to it.
You mentioned when you were talking about Ronald McDonald House, how, you've been on the receiving end of needing to have that opportunity to decompress. And, is this, I'm assuming this has to do with your daughter's battle with cancer and I'm curious how that impacted your outlook on life, leadership, and the importance to plan for the future.
Well, it's interesting because I was working on Make-A-Wish. We've worked with 14 or 15 kids in the last 30 years here. And we were on our fourth child that we supported through Make-A-Wish when Nicole actually was stricken with that disease herself. And it just reaffirmed what the other side feels when it comes to giving. Okay. When the recipient, because, all the outpouring of people that came to me and man, we're thinking about you and we're praying for you and we're circling the wagons and we're doing all this stuff, that community feeling that you get, when you give, when you're successful and you give, sometimes you don't necessarily put yourself squarely in the shoes of the receiver. But when you're suffering with your child, like we did, I mean, that was a scary 5 years for us. Thankfully she's out of it now. She's great. And she just had our first grandchild. So, but yeah, it's really cool because you get to see it from the side of the receiver and you understand it just a whole lot more.
That is amazing. And you're right. I mean, I think it's hard for a lot of people to be able to welcome that pouring in from others. And it's important because sometimes, if you close off, then that giver feels like, well, what I'm here. I'm really trying to lean into you from a relationship, I believe in you, or I want to help you and your family. And being able to be vulnerable like that is so, I think, important.
Well, yeah, it's interesting because we try to bring the Make-A-Wish families to our office here, and we bring them into the conference room, and we do whatever the child wants. We decorate the office in a big themed way, like it's, a princess or it's a Lion King or it's a Disney, whatever kind of theme it is. And there were a few times when the parents came into the foyer and thought that maybe they were just dropping their kid off and then they were going to come into the conference room and we were going to do our thing and they were going to wait. And we're like, no, we're all in this together. Come on. And they brought their other kids and their whole family. And then once they recognize that, look at, no one's here to feel sorry for us. No one's here to have pity on us. No one's here. We're all just here going, look at, we're all going to fight this thing together. I mean, we can do what we can to help you. We care about you. There's a lot of people thinking about you. I mean, if we can do this one little thing to take some of the sting away by helping you go on something that brings you closer as a family, then we're going to do that. But it really is a unifying thing. It's you're right. Some people at the beginning are like, man, I'm not so comfortable accepting things, but it ends up working out pretty good.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you have, you've written books, you've been on TV. What's kind of the next big thing for you, Ken?
Well, I have another book coming out. I'm halfway done. The first book was called Blue Collar Cash, and it was aimed more at the 15 to 40-year-old that was trying to figure out their life,
Yep.
This book I was asked to write because so many companies wanted to know, well, how do I attract that culture-seeking person? So now I'm writing a book on, it's basically like traction or culture for dummies is really what it is. And it's so far the working title is Talent Rules, okay, which is one of the ways we wanted to make sure that we allowed a company to say, okay, how do I find these people? So I'm halfway through that. I've got a course that I built for my first book that it's my way of giving back. I do have to charge a fee for it, but I give that money away to first responders and to sons and daughters of the fallen and Gold Star families. And that's a course called The Path to a Successful Life. And it's I think it's not one of those $2,000 things, Marianna. It's $179 and you get a free copy of the book with it. And I donate the money to the local group. So, but what's cool about that is if you read my book, you'll see it and you'll go, these are great ideas, but then you need somebody to push you from behind into doing them. And that's what the course does. It forces you. It's a simple 8-session course. It's 45 minutes a session. You can do it in a weekend or a week. It doesn't matter. But I really like it because I want people to take my book and have it actually physically change their life this afternoon. You know, not like some books where you hopefully maybe put it into practice someday. And that's why I did it. So yeah, that's what we're up to.
That's awesome. Everybody who listens to the show knows I have my handy little pen and I'm always writing notes. So you kind of might have seen me scribbling. And I want to recap some of the highlights that I wrote down. And, we started off with how you started your career and you learned really early on that you could earn money that then would allow you to do things. And you began to actually create little teams where now you're helping other people also earn money so they can go do the things that maybe they dream about. You talked about how you've always been a risk taker. And, if you're willing to take risks, you got to know that you might lose some, but the goal is to win more than you're losing. And being able to have that ability to kind of lean into that. We talked about, from your book, Blue Collar Cash, where 30% of white collar workers, say that they're happy, whereas 65% on the blue collar side. And it's happiness isn't always about, financial gain or education level, all of that. It's about how do you find your peace on what's important to you, which, kind of leads into comfort, peace, and freedom. And that it's a triangle. And that's how you can drive how you want to live. And so you want to respect people that they may pick a different path to get to their comfort, peace, and freedom. And that's okay. It's allowing them to also kind of lean into what is most important for them. We talked, a lot about, as your kids may be growing up or people planning out their career path. It's not like what you do. It's kind of how is that going to get you to where you want to be for that comfort, peace, and freedom. And it's just a pathway, which is like, I loved your word of replacing, goal and hope and wish and replacing it with pathway because it's actionable, it's tactical, it's something that means, hey, I have control of taking that first step towards and each step towards those goals. And then we did spend a lot of time talking about giving back. And it's so powerful to not only do it maybe as an individual or as a family, but how do you get your team as a collective to give back together? And it creates this fellowship and this bond of doing things that are more than just the bottom line. And it pulls people together. So those were some of the highlights I wrote down, many more, but those were some of the big nuggets that I was like, wow, this really resonates with me personally as I lead teams and as I help others. And I think it'll resonate with the audience as well.
Well, thank you. You have to understand that whether you're a leader, boss, owner, manager, whatever, or you're working within the organization, companies as a whole are really linear creatures. You have the person that comes in from the right side, and you've got raw materials, and you have something that's made, created, built, software, product, whatever. Then that thing has a price to it, and then it's sold to somebody, and it's installed, and then hopefully that is paid for, and then there's profit, and that's at the end of the line. Well, as the owner or the boss or manager, you're always at the end of that line, right? So why wouldn't you want everyone in front of you to win as much as possible so that you win as much as possible? I mean, I've said many times in front of my group, I can't get what I want for myself nor for my company until all of you get what you want first. And it's absolutely true. So the best companies are run in a way where they really pay attention to the individual chases or goals or timed pathways of the individuals within the company. Because if those pathways are on the same momentum track as the corporate goals, when those things work together, man, get out of the way, because you have got a company that's going to explode. It's happened here. And I can certainly see that as a pathway for most people.
Yeah, that momentum just builds on itself, which is awesome. Ken, if people really want to connect with you, they're maybe really excited about what they heard today, is the best place for people to go is to kenrusk.com?
Yeah, absolutely. You can see what we're up to there. I mean, I also, I'm not a young person, so I didn't grow up on social media, but I do have some of that stuff for the book, and it's at Ken Rusk Official is my Instagram, and LinkedIn and Facebook and all that. So you can kind of see what we're up to there as well. But yeah, if you go to my website, you can kind of see all that we're involved in, and it's a good spot to hang out and just see how you can improve your life. Because if you do, you're not only going to help yourself, but you're going to help somebody else in the process.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Might in Motion. Remember, every step forward counts, and the power to create momentum starts with you. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please subscribe, share, and leave us a review. It makes a huge difference. Until next time, stay inspired, stay mindful, and keep moving with might.